We're going to use the Pythagorean theorem to determine the length of the hypotenuse of this right triangle. So I know it's a right triangle because I can see the 90, and I know that I'm allowed to use the Pythagorean theorem because that's how I can find lengths of a right triangle. So it's important to find the C, the hypotenuse. So it is labeled here, but if it weren't labeled, I could find the 90-degree angle and go across from it. The side across from it is the hypotenuse. Other than the hypotenuse, to be honest, which side you label A and which side you label B is not super important because you're going to be squaring and adding. Speaking of squaring, it's very important to keep in mind that we need to follow the order of operations, and it's also important to keep in mind that we need to remember that squaring is multiplying a number by itself, not multiplying a number by 2. So these are all the things you want to keep in mind as we do this problem. Let's start by substituting the values in. So I happen to have the 8 across from the A corner, so I'll put that in for A, and then I'm going to square that, plus, and then the B is across from the 2, so I will substitute in 2, and I'm going to square that. And this is equal to, so C is an unknown. We do need to square it. All three of the terms are squared, so that's important. So this is the place where we have to keep in mind a couple of things. One, we need to square before we add. So there shouldn't be any adding first, so that violates the order of operations. Now we need to also think about what it means to square. 8 squared means 8 times 8, not 8 times 2. 8 times 8. 8 times 8 is 64. Same thing. It matters a little less with 2 because 2 times 2 is 2 times 2. But important to keep in mind that we're squaring. This is still equal to C squared. We have not solved it. And we're going to end up with a total of 68 here when we combine like terms. Now, there are some values that are what we call perfect squares, where I can look at them and I can see what two numbers I multiply by themselves, or what number I multiply by itself that will give me the value. 68 is not a perfect square, and right now you don't have the ability, the knowledge, to be able to figure out what exactly the square root of 68 is. You will learn that. But for right now, we're going to just stop and say that C squared is equal to 68. And that's as far as we can go with the problem at this point in time.